Okay, y'all chiming in with y'all movies, but let's get to it, man. Conut asked a good question. Pretty P asked a good question. Now, I want to get into the music side of you, right?
Let's talk about it.
A lot of people don't know that you were an artist and you can sing and can rap, but let's just stick to what they really know you for.
Hmm?
How did you become a music executive? Like, how did you get in to like behind the scenes of the music business? How did you go from that artist, from the Black Mob, being a singer with Black Mob, was CEO? Who I was in Black Mob?
CEO the Bad Black and my brother Tim Dog,
There you
ODA.
go.
ODA,
How did,
only dogs allowed
right? How did you go from that to the music business side?
to be. It's okay. I used to be a radio personality as well. So
Okay.
and I used to hang at the radio stations and kick it. Back in the days, hang with guys at WNUR and
Right.
WKC and CRX and all of the college radio stations. And
Right.
then I ended up hanging out with Ramonski Love and Disco Dave doing a show called Rap Down. And I did the theme song for that show with Scout number one and Jammy Jacket. We did that song and it became the theme song of the show. So pretty much that took me to one level of just being around radio people. And then accidentally, uh, I fell into the part of business because of Jammy Jack. He was from
Oh,
Evanston. He's from the suburb of Evanston. And somebody gave him a call and said, we need a record to be promoted. And he didn't know, the retail stores. Back in the days, there were stores called retail stores and things like that. He didn't know what a record store was at. Yeah, I used to own a record. Uh, so he called me up and I said, I'll take you to all the record stores. I took him to all the record stores and promoted and put the posters up and gave the new music of the artists that we was working. And that's how I pretty much became. Back then it was called a street promoter, but then that's how I became a promoter to move on, to become a radio promoter, mix show promoter, national radio promoter, and everything else to become the man that I am today.
okay. Well, let me shoot to this. I remember when I was about 13, 14, I would be at the concerts. And, everybody else is paying attention to the rappers. But, I've always been a different type of dude. I'm trying to see, like, the ticket booth and, like, who really running it and what's going. So it's like, I saw you, like, I don't know if you call that managing the stage or whatever you was doing, but I feel like that's what I do to this day, like straight from watching you get down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, at that time, I wasn't ready though because I was still a kid, but I remember seeing you do it, even though I was running up on the Bushwicks and the Scarfaces or whoever was there. So, what I'm asking you is like at those concerts, like what were you doing?
I was like event coordinating and handling the artists. So I was in charge of going to the airport, grabbing the artists, and bringing the artists back to the hotels and to sound check and get them ready for their set for the show for that night.
Right.
Pretty much, I was like in charge of the event, of handling the business of the ins and out of what was going on, like you said, behind the scenes. Like make sure the artists ate, make sure the artists had their hotel room, make sure they was able to move around the city and taking them wherever they need to go. So that's pretty much what I did.
What made you pick that over being a performer instead of just like, hey, I'm gonna just have Black Mob come and we get out the way? Like, what made you pick behind the scenes?
Oh, see, you asked a question nobody really never asked me for. And that's funny. I was focused on Black Mob, and Black Mob was doing well. And when I
Right.
say selling units, was really selling units. And we was doing shows everywhere, out of town, everywhere. But what happened, my boy Lucky, Leroy Burton, who
Right.
ran a seawall with Traxter, he had put together a label,
Shout out to Lucky.
huh?
I said, shout out to Lucky.
Right, shout out to Luck. They had put together Seawall, and they had a group called D to the S. And he
Okay.
said, he was like a neighborhood homie that I ran in the hood with. So from out west. So he was like, I got this group D to the S. Put Black Mob to the side for a while and come work with me with the label and help me
Right.
promote this. We started off with that, but then we came with this group called Do or Die. And they had a
Right.
song for Pimp. And we put Twist on that record with them. And that song was created, Do or Die, Poor Pimp. And Seawall took off and had all the biggest artists out of the city signed to them.
Now, if I'm remembering this right, though, that was after Ghetto Prisoner, though, right?
Yeah, that was out the Ghetto. I did Ghetto Prisoner first.
What was Ghetto Prisoner?
Ghetto Prison was a clothing line and a record label. It was a record label. And your cousin, your female cousin Heather Helliver, was signed to Ghetto Prison as the very first artist ever signed to Ghetto Prison record label.
And happy birthday to H. Did it out there in Cali doing your thing. Wish I could have made it out there, but you know me and Delle will be out there to kick it with you real, real soon. So with that, who owned Ghetto Prisoner?
Ghetto Prison was owned by Larry Hoover and Lil Larry and Wendy, Miss Wendy, his mom.
Okay, and so with you working for Ghetto Prisoner, they had you handling record label stuff and
Yeah,
concert.
I ran the whole label for them. I was in charge of taking artists to the studio, making sure the artists had production, and getting the artists here to there, and just pretty much A&R in the situation of the label and doing the promotion, and dealing with all of that, dealing with
Who was some of the artists that came to them concerts that Ghetto Prisoner was throwing?
anybody you can name. We broke. See, you have to remember this, and people don't get it. I'm gonna tell it right here so people can know. Like, it was a lot of artists like 8 Ball and MJG and Too Short and let's take Scarface and Big Mike and Choice. See, people they don't understand. Before that was a Sexy Red, a Little Kim, a Nicki Minaj, there was a female artist by the name of Choice out of Houston that was signed to rap a lot. That was more hardcore, sexy, and doing more things than they doing right now. So what they doing now is nothing new. You see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, watered down
Right,
compared
right.
to Choice.
But people didn't know those artists as heavy as we made them in Chicago, bringing them to them concert. They was getting, because you got to remember there was no internet back then.
Right.
So when we brought them to the concerts, and people was kind of familiar with probably going down something like, let's take Bout It by Master P. I heard Bout It hanging in Atlanta at Freaknik. You know what I'm saying? I walked out the hotel to the parking lot. Boom, I'm hearing Bout It, Bout It. I'm like, man, it's so hot.
Right.
Bro, you got to remember, you're going to the South and bringing the South music back up to the Midwest and back to Chi-Town made the South hot. Chicago is the #1 market for breaking music. That's why every artist that comes out from now to back then come to Chicago first to get their music broke. Because Chicago.
Okay, let me ask you this. What's a record that you broke back in the day? Like, what's the biggest record you broke back in the day?
The biggest. I done broke so many big records. You got to think about it.
I know, just throw one out there for him, though. For back in the 90s or something, what's a record you broke?
Outkast, Player Ball was one of my first records.
Okay, so check it out. Early 2000s was one of the ones you broke.
Early 2000. I had Johnny P. Well, we had early 2000. I worked so many. See, I done worked so many damn artists in my time. I'm just gonna name artists: Outkast, Goody Mob, Monica, G Herbo, Do or Die, Soundmaster T and John Rista, The Mercenaries. I could be sitting here all day naming artists. Tupac,
You really could.
Craig Mack, Lil Jon and Eastside Boys. Man,
John Blue. Wait a minute. Hold on. Pause. Go back.
Okay.
I know. But did you just say Tupac?
Yeah, I worked Tupac. I worked Tupac's very first single called Trap.
Called Trap. Okay.
And I'll tell you something. When I first got that record, I was like, oh, this record all right, this record cool. But then when I started listening to the other product, product that we had and the other things we had on them, and then I said, he got it. And then when I met him and home got with him, I had to take him around to all of the stores and to the shows and to radio. He was just so smart. He was a genius of being who he became, you know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
he really was a smart dude, and he took what he had created off of that film and made himself and to become the artist that he became.
Well, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna start back there and work my way up to the present, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I was with you, and we go to it was like a seminar or whatever, and we're just going to go, and we walk in the middle of a guy named Kevin Black, who was a legendary executive for Interscope and Death Row Records, and he saw you. And he said, "Oh my goodness, it's Delle." And he stopped. He told the people stop interviewing him, and he started talking to you. And he got to saying how you helped run Death Row. Like I didn't even know this.
He said his first break came from me. My first break came from this man. Now, you don't understand. I'm like Delle. When I used to land in Chicago, Delle be like, "What? Anything you want?
Right, anything you want, anything you need.
If you need to suitcase something." And I am gonna interview my idol, the guy that started me, the guy. He hate when I say this, but this guy is the guy who started me. And I'm gonna interview him for one, because he always.
I ran Death Row Midwest. So whenever Death Row came to Chicago, I'm the one that took care of all the business for them, making sure to move around. So when you say Snoop or Dr. Dre, I worked above the Ram Project, Murder Was the Case. Like I said, all of Tupac, before Tupac even got to Death Row, I worked all of the Tupac projects and things like that. So I was the person you had to meet with, sit down with, and pretty much set up all of the private parties we did for radio people and DJs in Chicago and the Midwest.
Let me ask you this: what happened at the Regal, man, over that chicken with Rap a Lot and Death Row, man? Come on, man. Because I know you work for Rap a Lot too. So you
Also,
work for Death Row and Rap a Lot, right? Am I correct?
also ran Rap a Lot Street Team as well. And I worked
Right.
for the Ghetto Boys and all of them, Bushwick Bill and Fifth Ward Boys and
Before
uh,
you tell me what happened
uh,
with that chicken, right? On that on that last Ghetto Boys album.
mm-hmm.
I remember it was time for the tour, so me and no, not Willie D. Willie D had me on the phone with Big Chief and Peter. So they trying to put the tour together. We putting the tour together. Me and Peter and Big Chief. So we talking. They asking me questions, and I'm like, "Can't we just call Delle Dale for this?" And Peter said, "What? You know Delle Dale?" And Tony like, "Oh man, you know Delle Dale get it done." I'm like, "Yeah." So it's like, and Peter was a serious. He had like the biggest booking company out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
the biggest booking company out. Yeah, he definitely was one of the biggest booking agencies out of New York, booking artists from everywhere, from any coast. He had them signed to him, and he was doing the booking for him. Yeah.
right. So him and Big Chief, once we got you on the phone, they just was going crazy. Like, man, Delle Dale. I'm like, man, I didn't know he was working rap a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
So
A
with
lot.
that being said, what happened with this incident with Death Row and Rap a Lot, man? Because I know you was right there, man.
I
Just
was live backstage with everyone. And so pretty much Death Row had their side of the stage and with the dressing rooms and Rabbi had their side. So Bushwick, rest in peace to Bushwick. He was over there kicking it with Death Row because if people probably don't know it, Bushwick was on Death Row on the Death Row album. He was on
right on the chronic. Yeah.
Chronic. So he's on the album. So he over there kicking it with him and doing his thing with him. And the last piece of chicken disappeared. The last piece. And Suge and everybody was like, man, who ate the last piece of chicken? So I'm like, damn, who the hell tripping about a piece of chicken? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, we ordered more chicken. But they kicked everybody out of the room, kicked everybody out of the side, told nobody, ain't want nobody over there, nobody kicking it on that side. Pretty much kicked everybody out over a piece of chicken, man. Just because of, so, you know what I'm saying? It probably was some Uncle Remus, so I can understand it.